The Duchy of Braunschweig, or Brunswick, was the second largest state to contribute forces to the British during the American Revolution, and actually was the very first to sign a subsidy treaty with the British during that conflict. The entirety of the Brunswick forces that served in America were sent to Canada and served in the northern campaigns of 1776 and 1777, where the bulk of them were actually captured during the surrender at Saratoga. The 4,000 Brunswick troops, though, that landed in Canada in 1776 and formed nearly half of the British army that ascended the Lake Champlain Valley in 1777, however, were only one part of the forces that served here in North America during the Revolution. Each year, these states would send recruits and replacements to augment men who were naturally lost to the attrition of war through death, through illness, fatigue, discharge, and other means. And so every year, troops had to be recruited in Europe and then sent across the Atlantic Ocean to fill up the numbers of those forces. This is an interesting broadside here that would have been published in Germany and circulated, which indicated when it was published in May of 1779 that basically recruiting was to cease for that year, which means most likely that the quota of replacement troops that were needed to fill the numbers of these forces had been met, and so recruiters were to stop doing that work. It's issued in the name of Duke Karl, the ruler of the Duchy of Braunschweig, and at the bottom signed off on by his privy councilors, which gives us an interesting bit of insight into what was going on back in Europe, where troops were being recruited for American service. And often the better troops that left at the beginning of the war meant that as the war continued, these states tried harder and harder to find recruits, often accepting lower and lower quality recruits to fill the ranks as the best soldiers had already gone to serve in America or were being held at home. So this gives us, again, one little bit of insight into what was going on back in Germany, where thousands of young men were serving in military forces on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean.